Welcome, listeners, to episode 2 of SiCo Radio. I'm your host, Jace Leroy, and still hanging in there with me today is Mr. James T. York.
Staple free.
Hey, how is that leg?
It's good. All healed up for the most part.
Because last time you showed me, it looked disgusting.
It looks better than it did then. It's we're getting close to being fully healed, other than a scar that I'm sure will be impending.
Yeah, it's disgusting. On last week's episode, I sort of lied to everyone, which is a fantastic way to begin any new relationship. First, I told you guys that episodes would be released on Thursdays, when in fact they are going to be released on Fridays. The second lie is that I told you guys episode 2 would be covering the longest confirmed sniper kills in military history. Well, that's all out the window now because we have our very first guest to appear here on SiCo Radio. So today we have the one and only Mr. Colion Noir.
Yes, sir. In the flesh.
So we're happy to have you here. Thanks for hanging out.
Just a warning, I'm a mouth breather, so if you hear heavy breathing, that's just me.
All right, well, I'll have
He's
a lot
just
of
getting
editing
excited
to do.
because we're in the gun room.
So, Colion, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
And first, I got to ask you about your name.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard the name Colion.
No.
Where's that come from?
All right, so here's the thing, right? So there was like this big scandal by the other side. They were just like, oh my God, this guy's a fake. He doesn't even use his real name. You know, Colion Noir is not my real name.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
just
It's like a
look that up.
pseudonym.
It's a pseudonym, exactly.
Gotcha.
You know, pseudonym based entirely off of me starting my YouTube channel.
Oh, so was it like your YouTube handle?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
And it just stuck. So, like, there's no conspiracy. I'm not part of the cabal or anything like that.
That's smart. It's like a brand.
Yeah. And so it literally was me saying, hey, I think I'm at a point now in my firearm enthusiasm where I want to start making videos.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to start the YouTube channel. And I was like, well, I had, some of my friends used to call me as the nickname, like Killer Colion, right? Why? Have no idea, right? So I thought, okay, let's go Colion. Because I just thought my real name was just kind of boring. So I was like, Colion. And then I'm known, as people who know me in my personal life, I'm obsessed with the color black. I love the color black. So from that standpoint, I was like, I don't want to call myself Colion Black, you know.
That's not subtle enough.
It's not, you know. And I've always been known to be a little extra. So I was like, you know, let's see. One of my colognes I used to wear was Colion Noir when I was, you know, like in high school or something like that.
Nice.
And so I was like, I always liked the sound noir. It just had a nice sound to it. So I like Colion Noir. I like that. All right, do it. And that was it.
No, that's
and then
great.
I started the channel. I didn't even have no second thought, nothing. And it just kind of stuck. And so yeah, there's that.
That's
story.
cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I just thought you had. I thought you just naturally had a superhero style name.
You know what?
That's what it sounds
I'm
like.
not gonna lie to you though. Like I'm more and more now. I'm starting to think about lying and telling people that it is my real name because
Just change it.
it's a cool sounding name, right? And so
Yeah.
when I tell people that it's not my real name, I kind of lose a little bit of swag. So I'm thinking about like changing it legally. I'm not really, but but yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. So you're a gun activist.
Yeah.
You're involved with the NRA.
Yeah. So, by and large, when people ask me, the hardest question for me to answer for a lot of people when they ask me what it is that I do, is answering that question.
Yeah.
It's hard for me because I know what comes. I know what the second, third, fourth, and 19th question is going to be after the fact if I answer one way.
Gotcha.
Or sometimes I honestly just say I'm a lawyer because I am. And usually people get it. All right, cool, boom, and we move on.
So you can basically control the way the conversation goes by picking kind
Pretty
of
much.
what you tell them you do.
Yeah.
Depends how long you want to talk to that person.
Right.
I would take it.
And unfortunately, too, though, sometimes is I purposely don't tell them up front because I know people have this preconceived notion about firearms typically. And so they'll color me instantly. And they'll think they know who I am and what I represent just based off telling them what I do. And automatically they'll start funneling everything about me through that lens that they've created.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I'm like, I'm Collins or Colion, whatever we call it, and I'm a lawyer. You know, and so from that perspective, they usually don't ask any more questions. And if it's an extended interaction, at some point, I'll start telling them, you know, what it is a little bit more about what I do. Oh yeah, by the way, I also do this. I happen to do this with the NRA. I also happen to have this YouTube channel. I happen to, you know, do all these things with respect to firearms. And so then it allows the conversation about firearms to kind of happen more naturally, and then they're less on guard. And then I can have, you know, something more valuable come out of the conversation other than, oh, you do that with those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So if I can ask a question, what is your role with the NRA?
Right now, my role with the NRA is I am a personality, essentially. I host CN Live. I host Noir. and I'm also an NRA commentator. That's essentially what my role is with the NRA.
How long have you been doing that?
I think we're pushing in around 5 to 6 years now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and those 5 years went fast.
You don't see it slowing down anytime, do you?
I mean, the only way I can see it slowing down is if they either want to cut the relationship or I get to a point where I no longer want to do this anymore. I still don't even think I've hit the peak. So to answer your question, I guess I'd say no.
Speaking about the NRA, can you speak a little bit to what they're doing to help push pro-gun legislation such as the Hearing Protection Act? Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's one that we're very interested here at SilencerCo for clear reasons.
A lot of it, honestly, is going to be speculative on my part because I'm part of more the outward communication arm of the organization. People tend to underestimate the many factions of the NRA. You have the political faction and you have the communication side of it. Now, they all come together for the same goal. But I'm not on the Hill dealing with actual pieces of legislation. I largely have to follow it on my own. And I have the resources available to me from their end, if I need to reach out and get that information. I know there are things happening. I know they are doing things vehemently. To get into specifics, I honestly couldn't tell you.
Gotcha. Well, let's shift gears, and we're going to move into a few news topics.
We had a busy week this week as far as just guns in the news. I know you were blowing up a little bit.
Man, that's par for the course of me nowadays, man. It's almost scary because it's becoming my new norm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so for people who are coming into my life now, it can be a little overwhelming.
Well, social media it requires so much time and attention now.
Yeah.
Especially when you're heavily involved with anything political, because that's how people communicate now.
I mean, I'm dealing with it right now as we speak.
So I'm sure you go through. I'm sure you have a very hard time keeping your battery full on your phone.
Very much so. That's why I have two of them.
Because you constantly have stuff coming through, constantly using on the road.
The funny thing is like, when the rare occasions actually go on dates, I show up with two phones and instantly it's kind of like, whoa, like, what are you into? Like,
this guy's a baller.
I can't trust this guy, right?
Oh.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Now I got to check two phones.
So, yeah, exactly.
He's got one for the wife and one for the date.
But if you don't understand the context in which the work that I do, it's not going to make sense to you when I tell you, well, no, I need it for what I do from a social media standpoint. Like, it's hard to explain, but having two phones and being able to, because I all of my social media, it's all me. I don't have anyone running any of my social media accounts. So it makes things so much easier when you have two phones. Like the smallest things that you kind of underestimate become so much easier with two phones. Like if I'm posting on Instagram and I need to figure out a certain way to spell someone's name, or sometimes Instagram acts kooky and I'm trying to add something and it's not pulling up and I can't remember how it's spelled, so I go on the other phone and do it real quick, then find it and make sure that it's correct. Things like that make my life so much easier. And because I largely run my entire brand on my own, the smallest things that can make my life a little bit easier make the biggest difference.
So tell me, what are the pros and cons of social media and the way that people talk about firearms?
I think we would not have a lot of the rights that we have but for the internet and social media. I'm not even gonna lie to you, because what it has allowed us to do is to usurp the typical mainstream media conglomerate, right? That used to be the main way people got their information or developed their opinions on a certain topic, and they had no one to counter the narrative. As opposed to now, with social media, the internet, I can jump online and I can see an article. I'm like, that's not true. And then I can pull facts, pull stats, say this is the actual truth. And then people can see it. We can disseminate it widely. Now, we are dealing now in a time where Facebook, like the main social media platforms, are now starting to, under the guise of profit, starting to limit organic reach.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And like I'm noticing it now especially now on Instagram too as well. And so there was a time period, I'm pretty sure you guys remember, on Facebook, you could put something out, and if it had the legs, man, it would go.
No matter what the content was.
Yeah.
But now if it's firearms related,
it's stalled. Yeah. Now, whether or not there's a conspiracy behind it based on, anti-Second Amendment sentiment, or them trying to establish the platform on a monetary basis and forcing you to buy ads, then that's two totally different things. However, I will say, like with my products, like my merchandising, like my brand, the Pew Pew Life, with the clothing, like I pay for ads to be disseminated on Facebook. The problem is I can't do any ads that have a gun in them because they won't approve them.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yep. Gets denied.
Exactly. So it's hard to communicate that this is a firearm related clothing brand when I can't even show you a picture of a firearm or just put a shirt that says gun. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if that would be approved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, the internet and social media has helped in one sense, that it allows us to kind of get a bigger voice to spread the information that we all know. However, it exposes the fuckery that is involved in our industry as well.
There's a lot of that.
Exactly. And it's the case with any subgroup or subgenre or any type of specialized type of interest. However, we are a group or a community that has been villainized for so long so that when people do come across some of the kind of more negative sides of the community, all that is just bolstering the false narrative that has already been put out there before, as opposed to some other groups that didn't have entire media entities trying to color the gun community in a negative light. So they can write it off and say, well, this guy's just an asshole, not necessarily the entire community. You know what I mean? And so like I was just recently, I got a comment on my Instagram page now. Like I don't block or delete comments on my social media page at all. I want to sometimes.
Right.
I really, really, really want to.
But that censoring is something that you probably believe in.
Exactly.
Not doing it. Like,
I don't.
you don't want to be censored.
No, I don't.
And if somebody wants to speak their mind, even if they're completely wrong.
Yeah.
And
the thing about it is, though, like, so for instance, this young lady, very brilliant girl, very smart. I know her personally on a personal level, and she's just like, I can't stand the people who comment on your comment section. You know, it makes me angry. And I'm like, well, I had to tell her, I was like, no one said open and honest discourse was going to be pretty and neat. It's going to be messy. Because we like, this is a very volatile topic. So I'm going to have very strong opinions. Other people are going to have very strong opinions. And not everyone is a gifted orator or gifted writer who can express their opinion in a way that makes perfect and utter sense. There's going to be miscommunication. People are going to misunderstand each other. And we're going to have to wade through that bullshit to get to the light in some sense. And, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Well, and one thing about social media is it really allows for misinformation to spread quickly.
That's exactly
right.
For better or worse. Yeah.
And it seems like the correct information takes longer to spread, not because it's slower for any inherent reason, but people are slower to accept information that goes against what they believe in.
Yep.
Right.
One thing I'm going to point out, for instance, clickbait titles.
Yes.
Right. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. But then I also realize I'm a realist in a sense. I call myself a realist trapped in an idealist body.
Yeah.
Right? I hate clickbait titles because, you know, a lot of the times what ends up happening is the people will, because our lives move so fast now. So people will see a title and then boom, they'll store it in their little mental recesses of their mind, and then they'll spit that back out whenever they're talking to somebody about an issue without ever reading the article or watching the video. Or they'll watch the video and it's full of misinformation, but they only watched it because the title was sensationalized or appealing. And so I have to do this weird song and dance. And I've noticed it on YouTube too. I've noticed a slow up in the spread of my videos, so to speak, because the algorithms in YouTube now have changed, and they tend to favor now more clickbait title-esque type videos. And so I have to play this balancing act of how do I get people to watch this video or get it to the top of the search aspect of it so that they can actually get the information without undermining my integrity by creating this completely ridiculous clickbait title.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a hard balance, but it's kind of like in the space that we're in, we kind of have to engage in it.
Well, you're competing with people who are going to use clickbait for misinformation.
Exactly.
So.
Well, the biggest problem is people aren't just judging the book by the cover. They're just reading the cover and thinking they understand the book.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
So I've got some really bad news. 93 million Americans are killed every day by gun violence. We found this out a few days ago.
84 hours.
So we got about 4 more days before the entire population of the United States is wiped out. Mr. Terry McAuliffe.
I say McAuliffe.
McAuliffe?
Yeah.
Terry McAuliffe.
Something like that, yeah.
He's a Virginia governor, and this is a quote that came right after the shooting for the Republican baseball practice shooting.
Well, if we go off of what we were just talking about, you read that headline and take it verbatim,
then
you're like, oh my gosh, this
what
is
is going on in America? It's a war zone. Everyone is dying and shooting each other. Oh God, man.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on
And
that.
now I watched the video clip and I thought, okay, this guy obviously slipped up on his numbers, but you watch it and he says it in such a confident way, and he says it a couple times.
Right.
And he doesn't correct himself until somebody actually says, Did you mean to say 93 million? Because you might have missed the mark by about 1 million times.
With his pinky up to his lip.
But then let's go a little
Dr. Evil
deeper.
style.
He retracts and says, "Oh, I meant 93," which that is misleading as well.
As hell.
Because it's combining. It's not gun. That's not gun violence. That's combining suicides. It's combining gang on gang violence, which is a lot of it, and it's combining accidents.
Yeah.
So the real number,
shootings.
if you take out justified shootings, suicide, and accidental shootings, your number is closer to like 30. And then if you subtract gang on gang violence in inner cities that have some of the strongest anti-gun laws in the United States, that number probably falls down to half of that, 15, 12.
Now, the thing about it is here's the beautiful thing. Like, we have to understand something. Like, when we talk about anti-guns, we talk about them as if they're stupid.
Yeah.
They're not misinformed,
Yes.
possibly on the issue. They're not stupid. They have a beautiful command of the English language, and they understand it. And even with the argument you just made, the beautiful thing about it is, well, it's not beautiful, but I mean, within the strategy behind it. And I'm a lawyer, so I look at things, I'm like, man, that's a beautiful way to approach it. They'll just turn around and say, what? So those 15 lives don't matter to you?
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
And it's and I get it. Like,
Yeah, but if you throw some other facts to that, like 96 deaths a day from car crashes and things like that, I mean, you put that all in perspective, and it relates. It's a perspective thing, right?
It relates. It communicates to you because you're a gun guy.
Yeah.
To the rest of the world, it doesn't.
That's true.
To the rest of the world, they're in their car every single day. So it's a convenience to them that they feel they can't live without.
Yeah.
We look at the gun issue as a gun rights issue that we can't live without. So the importance is not there with them. And that's the challenging thing about being a gun advocate is, how do I get to the level of people who don't necessarily see the inherent importance of the Second Amendment, even though it is incredibly important, and get them to see it from our perspective. That's the hard part. And in crafting languages, and that the funny thing about my videos, especially commentator videos, is they're a mind warp when I put them together, because every single word I designed to communicate something. And the problem too is when you do that and you put a video out there in the space, right? It can be taken and chopped up, and people can see it to me in so many different ways. So I'm constantly on guard. I'm like, all right, how does this communicate? So some videos I put out, and I have like a little test group of people I have, some far left, some far right, some down the middle, that I send it to them on, like, what did you get from this video? I really don't care about their opinion.
Right.
I just want to see what they got from the video, so that I understand that I'm communicating when I think I'm communicating.
What you're trying to communicate isn't necessarily what people are hearing.
Exactly.
Like the way they translate it. So I can see the value in that.
Yeah. And so I try to do my best to do that in that regard. But, it's it's tough, man. It's tough.
It's interesting with the pro gun side and the anti-gun side. One thing we all share in common, one idea, is nobody wants anyone to be getting killed by guns.
Exactly.
Nobody. I've got several liberal friends that guns, they didn't grow up with them like I did. They're scary to them. If they see a gun sitting on a table, it makes them really nervous. It makes their palms sweaty. It bothers them. For me, I get excited. Like it's a euphoric. It's like, I want to see it. I know how it works though. I know how it functions. And I always try to pass that knowledge on to somebody. And I've seen that click in people's heads before, showing them how a gun works and teaching them the basic safety rules. And then they start to understand it's just like anything else, any kind of tool that can be misused.
Yep.
And so
absolutely.
I think we all want the same thing. Nobody wants gun violence. Nobody wants people dying. But pro-gun side doesn't want to give up their rights for that either. Like, we know that there's bad people out there, and they're going to use whatever they can to do harm.
It'd be a different conversation if we could actually demonstrate that things would actually stop if we did give up our rights.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like,
and you can't.
It's not. We all know this inherently. But for a lot of people, they don't follow the debate as closely as we do. They don't follow the discussion as closely as we do. So for them, in their minds, it seems so easy. Get rid of the guns.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think what they don't understand is when there's 300 million of these guns that exist just in the United States, that's basically a gun or more for every adult. They're not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere.
And with today's technology, you can build a gun. It's not that hard,
Now, here's the thing. I'm gonna play in the alternative, right? Because some people ask me like, well, why are you so good at what you do in terms of advocating firearms? It was because I can argue the other side if I really wanted to.
Yeah, right? that helps. I mean, that's the lawyer side of you.
Yeah, and it doesn't. Exactly. Now, in the back of my brain, I'm like, this is a dumbass argument.
It doesn't make any sense.
You know, I could do it.
That's a huge advantage, though, to be able to understand the other side of the argument.
Exactly. So from that perspective, you know, I could, you know, think he's making the argument, and they've done it before. They've made the argument. Well, okay, but what if we dwindle it down over time so that maybe 20, 30, 40 years down the line, we don't have as many guns?
The long game.
Exactly, right? I usually pose the question, I call it the big red button in the middle of the table question. Mm-hmm. Big red button in the middle of the table, and you push that button, all the guns disappear. Just like that. Would you push the button? And, of course, most people are like, of course, yeah, boom, in violence. And you know what's interesting? It's funny how when you talk about getting rid of the guns, it's in violence altogether.
Absolutely.
But then when they talk about violence as it stands now, it's gun violence.
Yes.
Yep.
But and I say I wouldn't push it, and they kind of look at me with this kind of confused look on their face, like, why would you not? Like, are you that attached to your firearm that you're willing to allow people to continue dying? And I'm like, well, see, here's the thing. I'm what, like 5'9", 5'10" or something, and I'm about 190 pounds. If you two kicked in my door, because that's what would happen in the world without guns. Criminals will just start using disparity of force, right? So it'd be, instead of just one guy kicking your doors, 2 or 3. I may be able to deal with you guys, maybe.
Definitely Jim.
Yeah, right?
Oh, throw me right over there. Yeah.
But
he's got a weakness to knives.
Well, I can use them on myself, and so no.
But what about my mom? What about my grandmother? What about my aunt who lives by themselves? Can they?
Absolutely
Even with a
not.
knife in their hand, could they?
No.
Right. No.
They can't. But guess what? 5 guys kick in the door to my aunt's house and she has a gun. Even if they have a gun, nobody wants to get shot. Automatically, the tables turn in that situation.
It's the great equalizer.
Exactly.
It's what it is.
It is. And I think people tend to not see it that way until I pose it to them that way.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, all right. They want to fight it typically, but you can see in their minds that it's clicking. It's like, okay, you got a point there.
Well, at what point in time has mankind never been violent?
Right. They're going to find something that works, right?
We're not going to suddenly become enlightened and stop hurting each other. It's a fact of life that there's people out there, whether it's the way they were raised or the ideologies that they grow up following, they are going to harm others.
But the thing about it is the other side will say, well, the gun makes it more effective for people to harm other people. But then again, when we break down the numbers like we just did earlier in this conversation, 93 people die apparently from gun violence, so to speak. But then when you break those numbers down, over 60% are suicides, which we're on par with every other country, even the ones that don't even have guns.
Well, look at Japan.
Exactly. They have a higher rate.
I think it's almost double.
Yeah,
higher suicide rate.
So, we can follow that logic down to its logical conclusion. But it's how do you have that conversation on the national scene long enough, which is why I honestly hate doing cable news hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand the importance of it because you need that counter voice a little bit, but I get 2 minutes to deduce what we just spent 15, 20 minutes deducing, and we know the issue backwards and forwards.
Well, you basically got to boil it down to clickbait.
Exactly.
In 2 minutes.
But the other side takes advantage of that. They understand that. So that it's easy to pull emotions in one sentence. 93 million people die a day. It's like anybody who's not thinking on an irrational, emotional basis can pick that out in a heartbeat and say, are you kidding me right now? But someone who doesn't follow the gun debate at all and just sees news report after news report of gun violence. See Kim Kardashian being half naked in an orange sweatshirt talking about let's end gun violence day. And we can even talk about the intellectual lacking in the group of people who follow her in that respect. It's like they see that and boom, the emotional light cuts on. They don't even think past the idea that, wait, how many people are actually in this country or world?
Right.
That mathematically makes no sense.
No.
But that's what emotions do. They cloud the very rational parts of our minds, and that is what the other side plays on. And they continue to do, and they do it incredibly effectively. But now that we have the internet, to go back to one of your initial questions, we have the voice to counter that. And I think a lot of people get frustrated because they see over and over again. It's like, what's that one moronic Secret Service agent lady that was on TV?
Evie or
Pompu, whatever her name is, right? She literally got up there and basically said a semi-automatic is an automatic gun. Millions of people heard that.
Right.
Just like that, right? We don't have that platform to get up there and say,
right.
No, that's not true. Like a lot of people, for instance.
No, she's wrong.
Right?
That's just straight up wrong.
Like, yeah. And to bring things back to parallel to something I'm actually dealing with right now, even with the issue of race and firearms, right? A lot of people love to say, oh, the NRA is racist, and they don't care about black gun ownership, especially with respect to what's going on with the Philando Castile situation and the verdict that happened there. And what I've realized, because a lot of my friends are black for obvious reasons, they don't really know anything that the NRA does. Half of them don't even know what the acronym stands for. But because you've had this pushing of coloring the NRA as a racist, evil organization, they're basically the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Right? They don't even watch the programming. They don't know anything. And so that's because the stuff that the NRA does doesn't get put out on the mainstream media blowhorn, right?
Right.
Bullhorn.
Whatever kind of horn.
Right? Yeah. So it frustrates us because we literally are reduced to converting people one person at a time, where they have a bullhorn that allows them to convert people millions
immediately
at a time.
Yeah.
Immediately. What are we going to do? We're going to stop? We can't.
Oh, you gotta keep pushing, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more if you can, because I've seen news article after news article about the Philando case and NRA is silent. But I mean, you've been pretty vocal about it, etc.
Yeah. Well, that's because I'm one guy.
Well, and catch us up on that with those who aren't familiar.
Yeah, can you kind of run us through that?
So Philando Castile was the individual who was shot in Minnesota by the cop. And Philando apparently had a permit. I'm a little confused on that particular fact. I don't know if he had a permit to own a firearm or had a permit to carry. Nonetheless, he was a legal gun owner.
So I think I remember this. It was a video, right?
Yes.
He had
it was his girlfriend live streamed the aftermath.
So she was driving.
He was driving.
Oh, he was driving.
He was driving.
Yeah, he was driving.
And she filmed it somewhat with her.
She
cell
filmed
phone?
the aftermath after he had already been shot.
She was saying like he's been shot. They shot my
Yeah.
boyfriend. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I do remember this
That
video.
And so, with respect to that, like a lot of people are criticizing the internet because they're not talking about it, right?
Okay.
Now, they did put out a statement. It was a very calculated statement from the standpoint that they didn't have all the facts, right?
Yeah.
And that's the power of a video, right? A lot of people feel they know exactly what happened that day based on that video, but they don't realize is the video only started after everything was done. And we got her account of it. I'm not calling her a liar by any stretch of imagination, but I'm just saying there's still a lot of facts at that time that needed to come out about it. And so they got lambasted for not immediately coming out and saying something, even though they said something 2 days later. And then not on top of that, I put together a video talking about it under the NRA brand. One of my pet peeves in the way that the media handles a lot of the information the NRA puts out, when they can spin it in a negative way, it's the NRA said.
Yep.
When they can't, they ignore it. Or they say, the commentator said, or Colion Noir said. So when I did the video on Terry McAuliffe, I called him an anti-gun crackhead, right? The
that
title
sounds pretty accurate.
I said it and I meant it. However, the title of the article that was written about it goes, the NRA calls Terry McAuliffe anti-gun crackhead, right? However, when I did the video on Philando Castile, that a lot of people don't even realize I did, nothing. There was no, the NRA puts out video about Philando Castile.
Because they couldn't spin it on you yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was no negative connotations or anything to it.
They can put to it. So from that perspective, that's the type of media that's what we're dealing with. And the thing that sucks, and they know, is we're dealing with a sky is falling issue with respect to holding the media accountable. Because we say it so much, we just sound like we're Chicken Little screaming, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is never actually falling. When in reality it's just that they do it so much, now people don't even react to it anymore when we say it. They think we're just saying it and using it as an scapegoat, but it's not. But I'm so close to it, I see it. I see the way they manipulate, spin, and change things. And so it's like, how do I get that in front of people's eyes to see, especially in dealing with this Philando case now? Saying NRA never said anything about it, right? That's how a lot of people are saying. You may not agree what they said or what I said in the video, but to say they said nothing about it is a complete lie.
Yeah, I think that's the headline on the Washington Post. NRA says nothing. But I'm like, I'm with the guy that's saying something.
Like, literally, I put a video out about it, right? Yeah. Under the NRA brand. Now, my open letter that I wrote about it just recently, that was my own. I did that under my own platform. But nonetheless, you know, they're going to disregard. Like, if they find something that they can spin in that letter, they will, and they're going to say NRA said it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and so the thing about it is, even when I do, like, The Guardian just did an article on it, because I did an interview with The Guardian yesterday while I was filming, in between filming. And I recorded the entire conversation. Like, that's what I have to do now, just to keep people honest. Now, everything that they wrote was dead on. You know, they didn't spin anything, they didn't change anything. But I have to do that now, because I've been in situations where I've done an interview and they completely changed my words.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't record it, so I had no way to contrast it. So now, anytime I do an interview like that, I record it.
So you can immediately just say, listen, this is what I actually said.
Here's the full sentence, yeah.
Yeah. And then on top of that, that's why I don't like doing pre-recorded shows that are non-gun, that are not pro-gun friendly.
Right, because then they can go and cut it up, make you say whatever they want.
And it's happened. I've done a Fox segment where it happened. I'm not going to name any names, but it happened, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it was Fox that did it. I think it was the person I was on who threatened them and was like, you know, you need to cut that part. But, you know, it was a pre-recorded segment. I like doing live because you can't change it.
Right.
It's there.
Because then it's out there.
Exactly. That is the world that we live in now, especially with the media. And I mean, it's...
Yeah, you're never going to see a headline that says, NRA speaks truths on Philando.
NRA nailed it. Yeah. No.
Well, the thing is, they can't do that because the inherent goal is to get the guns. And I know it sounds crazy. It's like we live in a world where we're so privileged because our military does such a good job shielding us and protecting us from the fuckery that goes on outside of our country. But things like this happen all of the time. And we've had it so good here, people really have a hard time wrapping their minds around the idea that our government can go rogue on us. This is not conspiracy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't wear tinfoil hats, except when I'm trying to be funny. But it's not a conspiracy theory. Like it's played out in history over and over again. We can go look at Australia, for Christ's sakes. Like the prior administration literally was applauding the way Australia handled the guns in that particular country.
Oh, absolutely.
Overblown island, whatever you want to call Australia,
yeah.
right? Australia did exactly what we have been saying they're trying to do. They started off with the National Gun Registry, and then after that, they said, okay, now, by the way, turn in your guns.
This type of gun is no
longer legal, so you have to turn that in.
It's not even grandfathered.
No, it's not. It's just no longer. And they just were recently doing it again.
Yep.
They created another amnesty, and they said, you have this long to turn in these guns that are not registered, and if you don't, we're coming for you.
Yep.
Literally. And I'm like, but see, people don't follow the debate, so they don't know these things. They only know what they see on The View and all the other moronic programming that goes on in the mainstream media. And I watch a lot of the moronic programming for just sheer entertainment, but then it also allows me to be cognizant of the way they're influencing other people's minds who are watching this stuff and consuming it as if it's real information. And it's frustrating as hell.
Yeah. One thing that frustrates me is I'll hear from the anti side. They have two arguments they use a lot. And the first is we have way too much gun violence in America. 93 million people are dying every day.
90, I mean, that's a lot.
You know, mass shootings are through the roof, and it's a real problem. But then on the flip side, they'll say, why do you care about carrying a gun with you? Like, are you really worried about, like, which is it? Is
it
93
million people are dying today? Yeah, I kind of am.
Like, is it that we have the reason to say, yeah, this probably won't happen to me. I probably won't be attacked when I'm filling my car with gas, but it does happen. And it doesn't have to be with a gun. Somebody could attack me with a knife, or just their bare hands. I mean, there's a lot of people that get killed every year from bare hands. So they just kind of use whichever argument supports them at the time, and that one frustrates me because it seems playing both sides of the coin. And
another thing, and the funny thing is that you're right, because in the alternative they'll say, well, you like the chances of you ever needing a gun are like 0.0000000. You know what? On a grand scale. And the funny thing is, they always look at everything from a communist standpoint.
Yes.
Like, right? You know what I mean? It's like the whole, right?
Whole.
And I'm like, you do realize it's an individual right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sure. My likelihood of having to use my gun in self-defense, for me, slim to none. But when I become that 0.0000001, that's the only thing I care about.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care how many other people may or may not have to use their gun. I'm trying to be alive so that I can figure that out later on. And that's why I carry a firearm.
Yeah, even if it's like the whole life you go through, never had to use it, you're like, sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah, nobody wants
winning.
to use it. I mean,
but when you're not that .00001, somebody else is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what they fail to conceptualize.
So do you not care about that person?
Exactly.
Like that, to that point you made earlier, right?
I mean, I've been driving a car for the better half of my life, and I wear a seatbelt, and I've never been in a car accident.
Yep.
And most likely, I probably won't be involved in a terrible car accident, but I'm still going to wear my seatbelt.
See, but I have, and I've saved my life probably 3 times now.
Yeah.
There you have it.
So shifting gears to another shooting that occurred in this last week, we had the UPS shooting.
Ironically enough, I've so overwhelmed with filming and all this other stuff. Like I'm aware of it. I just don't have the details on. I do know there was a assault pistol involved.
Yes. So a new term that I didn't know existed was the assault pistol, and I don't know who coined this term. Do we know?
I think it was the media.
Yeah,
just the media.
It's at large because they kept using it over and over again. I know CNN used it.
And is it because the gun looks scarier than other guns?
I don't even know what gun was used, to be honest with you.
Tech 9.
So Tech 9, which
is not an assault pistol.
So
there's one right behind you.
yeah, we just got one of ours in, our Tech 9. So yeah, I think this was a case of.
I don't see it assaulting you though.
I mean,
nah.
I'm surrounded by guns right now.
Right.
I'm assaulting anyone.
I think this was a case of just like basically disgruntled employee.
Yeah. From what
from everything they've gathered, they're honestly saying motive is unclear. Other than like he just had some issues with coworkers. It sounds like.
I don't know. This has happened in California.
Yep.
Wait, how?
I don't know how
because they're illegal there, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Tech 9s are illegal.
I'm positive they're illegal
in California.
Yeah.
Illegal for the last 2 decades, in fact. So that's crazy.
I mean, that goes back to if you can press that button and make guns illegal, maybe not disappear, but say the government comes out and says, as a citizen, you cannot own any type of firearm, down to a BB gun. We have a lot of laws, such as marijuana is legal in most states, heroin, cocaine, but it doesn't seem like people are having a hard time getting their hands on those. And why wouldn't people have a hard time getting their hands on guns should they be made illegal, especially when there's so many that exist in the world? This is a small example of that.
Pretty much.
He used a gun that's illegal in that.
It was illegal as hell
in that in that whole state. So you can't stop violence from occurring. It's going to happen, and you can't stop people from breaking the law.
No, the funny thing is you can stop it when it happens to you by having the means in which to stop it for yourself.
Yeah,
that's the thing they keep missing. You can't stop it, but you can't stop it whole scale. You can't stop the attempt of violence. But in the moment when it happens, you can put yourself in the best position possible to stop it from continuing to happen.
Yeah, see,
in the moment.
You can't stop it, but you can prevent it from happening to you.
Yeah.
And others if that happens to be the case.
Absolutely.
Well, then there's the whole, I mean, we haven't even touched the Republican baseball practice shooting.
Oh, that's right. I mean, we talked about the misquote.
Yeah.
But so basically, it's a group of Republicans practicing baseball because they have like a charity tournament.
Yep.
And a shooter by the name of James Hodgkins, 66-year-old man, opened fire at this baseball game. And let's just say this. An armed Democrat showed up to a Republican baseball game and shot at unarmed Republicans and ended up losing that battle because he did injure 4 people.
Yep. With
gunfire. Scalise, I believe, was the one who was hurt. Steve Scalise was
shot in the hip.
Shot in the hip, and he was in critical condition for a couple days, but I believe they've moved him out of critical condition to serious condition, and it looks like he's gonna survive that. And it seems like this guy was just kind of a fanatic. He was part of groups that basically was supporting attacking Republicans. I know they dug into like some of his social media stuff, and he was posting a lot of
vehemently anti-Republican anything.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, I mean, but it goes to show you that it's a demonstration of the political vitriol that exists now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it's gone beyond just, okay, I disagree with you, you disagree with me, heated argument, go both ways.
Yeah.
But what we've seen is, for a group of people largely who, and when I say group of people, I mean like the anti-gun left, who largely try to cloak us, who tend to lean a little bit more conservative, as violent types who just want to go out and kill people. They've demonstrated an unquestionable amount a propensity to be violent in the same way that they're accusing us.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened after Trump got elected.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of violence and a lot of protesting going on for months.
And it begs the question, is that probably why they're anti? Because they understand the propensity for violence that they have in themselves. So they're insecure with respect to that. And so because they don't trust themselves, they don't trust anyone else.
Yeah.
Now, could I be reaching? Possibly, maybe. I don't know. But it's something to be thought about. I don't want to own a gun because I feel like if I own a gun, I'm going to shoot somebody. And then they then take that and use that as a basis for why they don't want anybody else to own a firearm.
Yeah,
I'm like, sweetie,
they project that onto other people.
Yeah, it's like, well, okay, see, I see your mental issues. I don't have those, so don't project your your inability to resolve conflicts peacefully onto me. Like, and so I have to tell them that.
I mean, kudos to them for
recognizing,
that,
what do I say? Acceptance is the first step, or
yeah,
what is it
if I might be a dangerous person with a gun,
right.
then
so
maybe.
You probably shouldn't have a gun. And the fact that you're able to self-analyze like that, and I get a gun,
but
kudos to you.
Like you said, don't push that on other people because there's a lot of people out there who are responsible gun owners.
Yep.
I mean, there's plenty of us walking around. I mean, our building's completely full of guns. We're sitting in a room right now. We're wall to wall with guns in this room, and
I mean, now I can't promise you that there won't be some theft on my part. I'm just gonna put that
we keep a pretty tight inventory, but I'd be impressed if you could sneak one out. Which one would you sneak out?
Man, that is a good damn question.
The HK91.
No.
No.
I heard
he shot it already.
I shot it yesterday. It would probably be that MP7 y'all have hiding.
I think we're hiding that from you.
Yeah, that one's
we
hidden,
knew you were coming, so we put that away.
That would probably be the one that's there. And I've taken a liking to this AK here. But yeah, I'd probably be the MP7.
Wow, we got off the rails a little bit right there. We got.
I'm technically still talking guns though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So let's move on to a little bit of SilencerCo talk here. You shot with us yesterday, right?
Yes.
How was that? I didn't get to go out. The gym did.
Besides the heat, it was a blast.
Pretty warm.
Yeah, it's.
I sat in an air conditioned room all day.
Hey man, I'm not mad at it. Dude.
But you got to shoot guns all day. I
did. It's a weird balance because it's like I love shooting outdoors, but man, when the weather's really hot, it kind of takes away some of the fun that you could be having a little bit, right? But other than that, I had a blast. It was an absolute blast. When you start shooting suppressed more often, you start to really hate. You really start to hate shooting guns unsuppressed.
Yeah, I'm kind of a snob now when it comes to that.
Oh, you saw me yesterday. I was legitimately getting frustrated with the guy next bay. Just I was tempted to go over there and put a brake on his gun and say, "Look, just shoot with this until you leave, and then give this back because I can't handle it.
Pretty much.
I'm losing it."
It's so much more comfortable shooting suppressed for everybody involved, and so when I go out to a public range and shoot, and there's obviously people there shooting unsuppressed because most people don't have suppressors.
Yeah.
I'm always annoyed, but I also I use it as most people will see the suppressor and come over and start talking to you and let them shoot it, check it out because not just because I work for a suppressor company, but because I think I dream of a world someday where everybody shoots suppressed. It's just so much more comfortable.
Imagine. Oh my goodness. It's gosh.
So you did one of our early reviews for the Maxim.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I watched that video. It was great production, great video. But I know there's a lot of people who were thinking, obviously they paid this guy to say every single word he said. But what are your real thoughts on the Maxim?
I actually take that as a compliment when people say that now.
Yeah.
I used to get mad.
Because that just means that what you're saying
I made a lot of gun companies a lot of money, and I didn't see a dime. So what that tells me is that, and this may be a little arrogant, and if it is, I'm not going to apologize.
Nah.
It just tells me the video was so good that it's like somebody must have paid for this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it right.
And that's the only way that I can come away from that. It might just be a defense mechanism, so I don't get mad at the fact that people think I'm actually
as long as it works.
Yeah. But I really did thoroughly enjoy the gun. I enjoy shooting the gun, and it's easy to poke fun at it because it's different.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say that as much in the video.
It's definitely different.
It's totally outside the realm of what everybody is expecting a gun to be.
Because guns honestly haven't changed much for a long
The
time.
irony is that the same people who keep crying about the fact that, everybody just keeps coming out with the same
right.
AR.
Yeah. Innovate. And then as soon as you
so
do,
you're like, what is this weird nonsense? And it's
This
like,
thing's stupid. Yeah, no.
like which one? Which one do you want? Do you want to live? I mean, the gun industry as a whole is already behind.
Right.
Compared to other industries.
Oh, yeah.
Like, especially when it comes to media, marketing, all that stuff. Well, you know what? I'll take that back. You guys do a damn good job. That's one thing I will say.
we try
You
to
guys do a
step
damn
that
good
up,
job
right,
of that.
into
Yeah.
the next level of, because firearms industry, marketing-wise especially, is decades behind.
Exactly.
And so we try to bring that up to date. And, of course, we catch a lot of flack from it, but obviously we don't care about that because it resonates.
But it's doing its job, right?
And we're
People
also
are seeing it.
Yeah.
The thing we like most is we're bringing in younger generations, which we need those people.
We have to.
We have to have
Right.
those
We
people.
have to. The old guard won't be here for that long.
No, I
and
mean-
then we also have a whole ideological group of people who are trying to brainwash younger people into being anti-gun. So then that same generation is going to be in power at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you think your rights are in trouble now,
Yeah.
imagine a new group, a new crop of people who never knew life under the Second Amendment the way we know it now. Please, we're doomed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we try to hit all sorts of groups of people, right?
Yeah.
From just our standard gun guy that loves guns and
Yeah.
grew up shooting guns in his backyard, to guys who do action sports, snowboarding, hipster crowd,
Yeah.
and people really poke fun at us for that. But it's at the same time, it's like, why wouldn't you want those guys to be pro-gun?
I mean, it's no
accept-
different. It's no different than the way people poke fun at me for all the shit that I'm into. It's like
Yeah.
clothing wise, it's funny to me. Like I
It
get
is.
it because but I love the distinction. I love you have a different perspective on certain things. You have a different perspective on certain things from a cultural, social standpoint. But then we both can agree when it comes to guns are cool as shit.
Right.
Yeah.
We understand the importance of the Second Amendment, even though you may like a certain gun more than I like a certain gun. I may think the gun is crap, and you may love it, but nonetheless,
Styrog.
man, I'm telling you, man, it's in here somewhere. I know it is.
Yeah,
There
right
you go,
there.
That thing's ugly as hell. I'm sorry. Now, shoots well, handles well, very ergonomic. Ugly as shit.
Case in point. Right there. But no, that's like he was just saying. I mean, really, our whole belief is everybody that's into guns and even people outside of guns. You might get into guns and understand shooting by shooting suppressed. So let's talk to everybody, not just the gun guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because usually the gun guy's already got our back.
I mean, I get criticized by some of my content. Some of the things I put out there. I'm like, well, there's another group. Well, honestly, admittedly, the way I put out content, the way I kind of craft the creative process, it's very selfish. I put out videos the way I want to see them. So, but it has a crossover effect into worlds that don't really pay attention to the gun world in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
It is not, and I think that is a good thing. And the beautiful thing about it is there's tons of other dudes out there putting content out there that appeals to all sects and segments of the gun community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's dope to have that kind of variety. You know what I mean? I watch all types of videos. And I watch some videos that some people are like, why are you watching this? Like, this is boring as hell. But to me, it's not. It's because I'm an inherent gun geek.
Yeah.
Like
That's me. I'll watch a video that's 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
Most people won't.
Like, I make fun of nothing fancy. I've watched his videos.
Yeah, long videos.
I watched the entire video. I've lied and say I don't, but I do. Because I really do like the way he goes into every nook and cranny of the gun. There are some parts of his personality I don't care for, but I mean, I have friends who I barely like.
Yeah,
but I love.
I think we all do.
But so it's but I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's the way it should be. I think there's something. I don't expect us to all hold hands together and sing Kumbaya, except for when it comes to protecting this right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where it stands. That's where it stops. We can go back and forth and bicker with each other. It's like family. It happens.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely. I love the community personally. I do. And I've been treated with nothing more than respect, even when I was a complete nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget that. Like, I wouldn't be here but for the community. I wouldn't be here but for the internet or the online gun community. Yeah. Period.
Well, we sure are appreciative of you stopping by, Colion, talking
Absolutely.
with us. This has been I think, an awesome conversation.
Definitely.
Where can people find you?
Oh, man. I try to be everywhere. So I'm on Twitter at MrColionNoir.com.
Mr. Colion.
At Mr. Colion Noir. I'm at. I started taking off the Mr. because I felt it was a little pretentious. So like my Instagram page
Mr.
is
Colion Esquire.
Noir. Yeah, right. And I used to hate when people put Esquire at the end of the name. I'm like, that's so whack. But you know, on Instagram, Colion Noir, at Colion Noir. I'm on Facebook. Just type in Mr. Colion Noir. That'll pop up as well. I'm on Tumblr as well at Colion Noir.
So you're everywhere.
I'm pretty much everywhere.
So I'm going to spell your name so people can find you, because Colion is spelled Colion.
Yep.
Like C-O lion.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then Noir is Noir.
Yeah. I'm also, and also you can also my website, which is MrColionNoir.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's on there. Now it's still kind of under construction a little bit, but you go on there, sign up for the email letter.
Cool.
Trust me, I'm not going to spam you. You know.
And then you've got YouTube as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. That was a catalyst for all of this.
Yeah,
right?
I was like,
yeah,
I think that's where it all started.
Yeah. So, and then also YouTube. Yeah.
So a little house cleaning for SilencerCo. Remember, everybody can contact us at SiCoRadio@SilencerCo.com. We already got a handful of emails from listeners with
thanks
some
for reaching
awesome
out.
topics. So what we do is we have a topic list. We throw those on there, and we will talk about them. So you guys can expect that in future shows. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well at SiCo Radio. And just remember, we still have our $200 rebate going until the end of this month. And that's going to wrap up episode 2. And we will be with you guys next Friday for episode 3. Thanks for listening.
What's going on, folks? This is Colion Noir. If you like what you saw in this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button that should be located on the bottom left portion of the screen. I mean, come on. Who you fooling? I know you want to.